Hey everybody, it's your buddy's pal Anthony, and with me today is Aaron Waller. Hi Aaron, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
I'm excited because we're finally getting something that we've been saying we were going to do for a while now. We are going to be talking Rebels. I shouldn't have to say this, but I'll say it. Tons of spoilers after the intro. Steve, hit it please. The reason we're really doing this is Ahsoka's coming up, and you need Rebels. We think you need Rebels to understand Ahsoka because there's a lot of stuff that's happening in there. So we decided this was the perfect time to go back and revisit this. And I think I'm speaking for you, but obviously you can correct me. I love this show. I did think, like, I was first when it started out, I was like, maybe it's a little more kiddie. By the midpoint of that first season, totally not just a kids' cartoon show. So yeah, I'm really excited that we're going to be seeing this transition to live action. And what did you feel about it?
Well, I didn't see it until late. I didn't actually watch it until after Mandalorian season 3 because I was an idiot and didn't know who Zeb was, and that scene where he just pops up in one of the bars.
Right.
So I didn't see it until very recently, but I thought it was moderately kiddie. Like I was like, it's just going to be like one of those animation ones. I heard some mildly negative things about, I don't know, it's not Rebels, the one that's after Rebels. Like Resistance or something like that.
Resistance, yeah. No.
So it's kind of like hot and cold on it. And also with Clone Wars. So I tried to watch Clone Wars a dozen times, and for some reason always struggled with it. But this one I was able to immediately kind of like connect with a lot better. I don't know if it was just a little bit more of a quote unquote simple story or just a lot more focused and not scattered all over the place. It was just a lot easier to connect with, like right from the beginning.
Yeah. And actually, so I saw it in real time, but that was actually my first animated Star Wars show. Like I'd seen some of Clone Wars here and there, and it didn't really grab me, and I came in way late. So I was just like, it's just, I can't. And I didn't even realize it was actually canon. So part of me was just like, I'm late. Why am I going to invest time in this? It's not even canon. I don't know how I didn't know that it was canon, but I thought it wasn't. And then Rebels comes along, and by that point, I've known that Clone Wars was canon, but I'm like, that's such an undertaking. I'm going to start fresh with this. But then, like, that helped me want to watch Clone Wars because at a certain point, we have Ahsoka show up. At a certain point, we have Rex show up. I'm like, who the hell are these two? You know, like, I mean, I think I probably had a rough idea of who Ahsoka was, but Rex, I'm like, they're bringing back a random clone. Why do I care about this guy? Yeah. By the end of it, I care about this guy. Go back and watch Clone Wars, and I'm just like, oh my God, Team Rex. So yeah, but I liked it, and I think I didn't know I needed the gap bridged between I was about to say the original trilogy, then I was going to say the sequel trilogy, and it's none of those. The prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. I didn't know I needed that timeline bridged, that time period bridged, but I did, and I really like what they did with Rebels. And like I said to you before we started recording, I started watching a couple of episodes, and of course I took like a really emotional one, and I'm just like, damn, this was such a good show. This was such a good show, you know? So
there are a lot, in my opinion, I'm trying to figure out the way to word this. There are fewer weaker episodes in Rebels than, at least in my experience with like Clone Wars, because a lot of times with Clone Wars it gets into like a lot of like the diplomatic stuff, or like there's drones on, and I couldn't tell you the number of times I fell asleep and just Yoda giving a speech, or like what's going on in like the Senate or anything like that. But yeah, so it was like I would fall asleep so easily with Clone Wars. This one I never really had that issue, and there's also a lot of nice connections I feel like between that gap, like you're mentioning. So one particular character that I particularly enjoyed in Rebels that I never thought, honestly, really never gave too much thought to in the original trilogy was Wedge. But like
Mm,
once he gets kind of introduced in this series, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely like on Team Wedge now. He's like really one of my more interesting characters. Um, Obviously, the main Ghost crew isn't really in all that stuff, but um, just one of those little connections that you appreciate like certain aspects of the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy more depending on when you watch Rebels.
yeah, no, exactly. I like that they did that. I like that, and I was afraid when they did introduce Wedge. I'm like, uh-oh, this could go either way, and it went the right way. And that this show helped solidify my trust and faith in Dave Filoni. You know,
Oh yeah,
so
for sure. And
because
I mean, I went. This series also inspired me to go extra hard into Star Wars because I was always like mildly dabbled in it. Of course, I'd seen all the movies, but I wasn't like deep into it. But this series really got me like extra like totally different layer that I've ever been on before. And because of Dave Filoni's impact within Mandalorian and liking Rebels so much, that kind of got me into reading some of the books. So I'm reading the one that he's kind of like using the Thrawn one
right,
for like his own sort of movie that he's kind of like setting up essentially. So and that kind of also because it takes place during or after Return of the Jedi, it like makes me appreciate those things more. So it all kind of like connects in a lot of like very unique ways I definitely didn't really expect when I like first started watching Rebels.
yeah, no, you can't say it any
I
better.
really only did it just to be like, oh, I need to know what's going to happen for Ahsoka. But then like I got into like a whole new
Yeah,
realm of like now I've rewatched the original ones like an extra like 5 times than I normally would, or I just watched way more like and more into the lore of things than I've ever been before.
yeah, no, that's great because, like I say, that more or less the same for me. Like I haven't started reading the books yet. I've been on the Batman comic binge lately, but I do have to get to those. Um, but yeah, like even just like a stupid little connection, like it's not a big thing, but at one point, Sabine, they're back on Geonosis in the episode I just watched, and she's like, "Oh, I hate sand; it gets everywhere," and I'm just like, "Okay, that's a nice little throwback line." Like again, that's like the worst example I can give because it's just like, oh,
Sure.
people hate that line of dialogue, but that just like I don't know him how big a fan he is and how much he really does love all this stuff that he like bridges that gap. And then
Hmm.
not rebels, kind of rebels, but I still love the quote, the story I've heard of Sam saying like when Ashley Eckstein, I totally botched her last name, Ahsoka, is they're in a recording and Whitmer's like, but we have to redo that because Shmi already met Padme, and he's like,
Yeah, it's like
yeah,
like Anakin's talking about
eh,
how he
yeah,
would love for his mom to meet her, Padme, and it was like, but they already did. They had dinner.
yeah, exactly. And then like, she's like he's like Dave like tilts his hat forward and is just like thinking, and Ahsoka goes to him like nobody outgeeks Dave, and just like hearing like I wouldn't have given a crap to watch behind the scenes stuff if Rebels and Mandalorian as well and parts of Clone Wars. The big boss is going to hate us. He's like, you guys are going to be shitting on Clone Wars. I'm not shitting on Clone Wars, but
No.
I just looked. Rebels was like 4 seasons, and so
Yeah.
it's much more concise storytelling. I don't even know. Like Clone Wars was huge and massive, so it's just it's more potential for fluff and failure. Personally, I think there are a ton of great moments, little moments, big moments in this series. What are some of your favorite moments from this show, and what would you think? Two prong question. What are your favorite moments, and if they don't link to Ahsoka, what are some of the things you think link the series to Ahsoka, if that makes any sense?
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about connected to Ahsoka, and this kind of connects to Clone Wars, but I feel like I was genuinely on the edge of my seat for I think it's the last 2 episodes of season 2, where they're at like the Sith temple.
Malachor.
Um, yeah, and they're at Malachor, and then they're trying to climb it. Maul's there, and he's. I like how he's trying to be like Ezra's going to be my apprentice, and he was like convinced of that the entire time, and like through the end of the entire show. Um, so like he's trying to like manipulate him and like get to the top, and then they end up meeting Vader up there. Like that entire arc was fantastic. Um, I was like, okay, this is like the Star Wars that I always want to watch this. Don't like give me all that other stuff. Like this entire piece was just amazing. When I think it was a little bit of a stretch when they started doing um, the world between worlds. There's the name of it.
That's that is the world between. That's what it's called. The
Oh, okay.
world
I thought
between
there was a
worlds.
shorter name for it, but yeah, when Ezra goes in there and kind of pulls Ahsoka out for a minute, I'm like, okay, this is kind of a little bit, a little bit of a weird, a little bit of a stretch. Don't really know how to feel about this. Um, but I think that they're probably going to expand upon that again at some point, or at least I would hope that because it connects to that moment, right? Because
Hmm.
Ezra pulls Ahsoka out of that moment, kind of more or less saving her from like getting crushed or fighting with Vader. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think that that might come back later. Like she might mention it to maybe Sabine when they're either talking. At least I hope so. It's not just like a throwaway and it's never going to come back again. Because it's just such an odd event to put in the middle of that. And then she's just like, "Oh yeah, that was fine." Just weird stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
I think I really don't know how they're gonna like just walk past that, especially since it was kind of like a big moment, especially for Ezra and trying to side with the whole thing with Kanan in the end. But that whole thing with the Jedi Sith temples. I think was very interesting. Whenever they had to like go in and either work together, like kind of be um, to lift the rocks or like whatever to open the doors, or they kind of go on their own personal journeys. I thought that was very interesting. Like Kanan fighting the temple guards, which ended up being like the Inquisitor.
Hmm.
Super cool stuff. I thought that was one of the most entertaining aspects. Pretty much anything with Maul was one of my favorite things. He's always kind of been like one of those dark horse characters. Plus, he's voiced by Sam Witwer, which is
Yeah.
it's a 1-2 punch of just awesomeness. So yeah, so anything with Kanan, especially as he sort of started accepting certain things and then trying to become a better Jedi, learning things, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I know it's kind of a cliche at this point with um, Jedi surviving Order 66, but I feel like his was more unique in that like he survived, but he held this massive guilt about it, and wasn't just necessarily he was in hiding, but then also had to do like all these other aspects. And once he loses his vision, he kind of goes off on this whole, I guess, in a lot of ways, spiritual quest for a lot of things, and just sort of his. So yeah, so his ending of the story, the ending of his story rather, um, definitely one of the more sad moments of the entire series for me personally, because I felt like it was a lot heavier, especially with things were finally coming to a head with between him and Hera.
Hera.
Things were kind of like moving finally for him in a way that he felt stuck for a long time. So it was a lot more emotional for me, but those were definitely my top moments throughout the series. I know I didn't really give you any room to speak there, but
No, you're fine. That's all good. And actually, so yeah, like I said, the Kanan episode is the one I just watched, and I was like, damn, why do they have to do this so hard and so good? Uh, yeah, no, I agree. I like all your moments. I really did love so I love the PTSD stuff. Oh, like, right? Like they didn't play it up too much because it is a cartoon and it is for kids. Like they did it more in Kenobi, which I really liked in Kenobi. But I like how just like they take Kanan and he's not just, you know, a lightsaber swinging, like cool, calm, collected Jedi after that. He didn't, it shows that they are real people. They did experience all this stuff. So yeah, like when he's using his blaster in the first two episodes of the series. He's not telling anybody he's a Jedi. Like I even was like kind of curious as if the rest of the crew knew that he was a Jedi until the last. Like I mean, Hera I assume knew, but like if I'm remembering right, they're pinned down behind. They're trying to free some Wookiees, and they're pinned down, and he tells like Ezra that he's going to let everybody in on the secret, and he puts the lightsaber together, which was also cool. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, of course it's like I like that he had it on him, but he didn't have it readily connected because I guess he was hiding, and it's not his go-to. It's not just
right.
whip it out. It's okay. I got to put it together. I have to. If I'm using this, a thought goes into it. It's not reflex. And like he's trying to in the first season. He's even trying to offload Ezra. Like he thinks his old master survived. And he's just like, great, because I got to get her because I can't possibly teach this kid. Like, there's all that fear and stuff. So I did like how they progressed in the series. I like how Kanan grew into the role of a Jedi Knight. I won't say master because they never granted him the rank of master, and it's a touchy subject for certain helmet wearing people. So yeah, like the PTSD, him overcoming it, like you had just said. Yeah, I mean, and sorry, it's not just trying to echo what you're saying, but it's a lot. We have a lot of the same moments. Like the mall stuff was
It was good
amazing.
stuff.
The mall stuff was amazing. And
Yeah.
again, I'm watching this. I didn't watch Clone Wars, and I'm like, the hell is Darth Maul doing here? I'm completely shocked. And then like and again, hats off to Dave Filoni when Maul and Ahsoka meet again at the temple, and he's like, "Oh, if you want to continue our duel, Lady Tano, we'll do it later." And you're like, "What duel?" And then I watch Clone Wars, and I'm like, "What the hell? They never fought." And then until season 7 comes out, and then you're just like, "Oh my god!" And yeah, like just all that. So, and then just in general, like Ezra coming into his own was also cool. It's cool to see him. They are what Luke should have been doing with his new Jedi Order because they're not conventional. They clearly have their attachments, like Ezra, Hera and Kanan. Again, spoilers for those who don't know. Kanan has a son. You see that in the epilogue at the end of Rebels, and I hope we see he'll be old. I guess he'd be older. I'm not saying I want to see him.
I don't think he's going to be that much older. I mean, it's going to be kind of interesting because they kind of redo some of those scenes from the final episode with Ahsoka coming and finding Sabine, her like some couple of things that they kind of recreate. So I'll be very interested to find out if they're just showing that and then be like, oh yeah, and then X amount of years later, or if it's literally a continuation from those moments and Jason's going to be there, or if they're just going to be like, oh, it was a dangerous situation, so we had to offload him. He's with my dad, or whatever ridiculous sort of storyline they're probably going to come up with to be able to explain those things. Because I feel like if anybody's going to have the attention to detail, with exception to that one time with saying what we're calling out, Dave Filoni's going to have that attention to detail.
Yeah, no, I agree, and but like I'm not saying, just to clarify, I don't want Jason was his name, right? Yeah, I don't want Jason to be. I mean, he's going to be a Force wielder, but I don't want him to be lighting up or like going out on the search with him. I just to see where it all progresses, like to see Zeb get called back in, because hey, we're going after our, they're a family. We're going after our little brother. Finally, let's go. And he pops in the X-wing. Stuff like that. But where was I going with this? So another huge thing from Rebels that I actually really liked, and again was worried, like they weren't, but kudos to them, they weren't afraid to use big people from the original trilogy. Like when Leia shows up, it's just crazy. And I think that was actually another screw up because she shows up and she seems like comparable in age and stuff to Ezra. And then in the episode where Maul and
I thought she was older than Ezra on that.
Well, I'm just saying, like she seems like in the ballpark because it was just weird. Because then, like I said, I just rewatched it, so she's like running around doing rebel shit. And then when Maul and Kenobi have their final fight on Tatooine, Kenobi is watching the Owens farm from a distance, and you see Luke come running across, like because his aunt called him, and Luke seems like he's still a little kid. Granted, we're off in the distance, so that just popped into my head. Like maybe that was another continuity issue. But again, kudos to them for like I think I love not shying away from using big name characters. Like Darth Vader was one of the big bads for most of season 2 after the fall of the Grand Inquisitor. So I just hope that trend continues. Like, granted, it would be in flashback, and it's all hearsay, but supposedly Hayden Christensen is going to be reprising his role in some way, shape, or form as a Force ghost, as a member. I'd love to see like another flashback sequence like they did in Kenobi, to like him teaching a younger Ahsoka or something along those lines. I'd love to see a live action. Well, we had a live action movie, but you know what I mean? A live action Clone Wars series. That'd be a ton of money too. But like different Jedi going around doing all that stuff, or just to hell with it. He was the greatest general of the Republic. Let 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 Anakin go nuts and just have fun. But and
Yeah.
then sorry, now who didn't let who have time to speak?
We're taking
Rambling's the name of
turns.
the
It's fun.
show. Yeah,
We can put it in the little thingy on the bottom, the chapters.
yeah.
Aaron's ramble, Anthony's
Anthony's
ramble,
ramble.
combined.
But
Yeah. So I guess my question would be, what from, because I know that we're mostly talking about Rebels, but since we're kind of piggybacking with Ahsoka, what from Rebels are you most interested to see either continue and or be expanded upon in Ahsoka, if you could choose like one or two things?
the imposing nature of Thrawn. Like, I hope that we don't lose that, because Thrawn, like, I hope the imposing nature of Thrawn continues. I had no clue who he was from the books. Rebels was my first, introduction to the character, and he was menacing. I like how he always, like, he never really showed. I don't think he ever got upset. He was always like that calm, cool, you know, base.
That's echoed also very much in the books. Like when I was reading, the trilogy that I'm reading, as like it's funny because there's like this one guy, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, that's like working on the ship with him, and then he's like, most the previous generals would basically lose their shit anytime like the rebels thwarted them or anything happened, and so like he's always like kind of like preparing for Thrawn to lose his shit when something goes wrong, and he just like stays like calm, cool, and collected, and then he's just like, we need to do X, Y, Z. They're going to start moving in this direction now, which is, kind of been the plan all along. And the guy's just like, oh, this is not the reaction that, these generals have had that I've had experience with. And like, his character has been very consistent. If anything, I have to say it's been very consistent from animation, from the book standpoint, and hopefully it comes across in the live action as well, especially since the guy is the one who also voiced him, if I recall.
It's the voice. I cannot even pronounce his name.
It's Nicholson, Lars.
Oh,
because Mads is his brother, I think. It's also
wow, I was imagining a much more complex name for some reason. But yeah, the voice actor Lars is coming back, and actually, just again, because I was just rewatching some stuff in season 3, I want to say they send out, like, basically they do a Hoth. They send out probe droids, but instead of like the floating guys, it's like they disguise as protocol droids to find to try to scan and find the rebel base. And same thing, at the end, like they thwart their efforts. They actually send the droid back to the cruiser, and they program it to self-destruct while it's there. Thrawn's on another cruiser looking over. The cruiser with the droid blows up. All these, nobody ever cares about the lives of the Imperials, even the other generals, but all these troopers, all this equipment, a whole star cruiser destroyer, I don't remember the classification, destroyed. And what's his face? Thrawn talks to Agent Callus, and it's just like, this is good. And Callus is like, what? He's like, we just lost a cruiser. We have no clue where the rebels are. We lost. How is this good? And Thrawn's just he hits a button. He's like, they could have been in thousands of systems. This droid came from one that I sent to like this system. So there's 94 targets now out of thousands. So we're in the ball. He doesn't say it, but he's like, we're in the ballpark now. We're good.
Right.
And Callus, who, again, spoilers, you find out is, I like how they kept using Fulcrum, by the way, as the code name for the Imperial defector or traitor, whatever. So he's Fulcrum, and you see him all happy, and then Thrawn tells him what I just said, and he's just like, oh crap. So like, again, just keep that calm, cool, collected, menacing nature.
Forgot about the whole secret agent Fulcrum aspect. I mean, I thought it was kind of a shock because I think Ahsoka was the first Fulcrum, and then it kind of switched to Agent Callus. So that whole thing was very much on the edge of my seat. Like, I didn't think, like, I was like, okay, what's going to happen next? And of course, when you're watching something that's been out for years, it's hard to because you had the benefit of watching it live, so you can just be like, oh, what is going to happen next? I was like, I'm really into this show, but I also can't look up anything, so I just gotta get through it as fast as possible so I can find out what happens, but also B, like look up
Yeah,
certain things because I can't look up because I had a feeling that something would happen, for example, to Kanan, because I'd heard like Freddie Prinze Jr. talk about it in interviews, so I thought like his arc was perfect. So I'm like, okay, this is gonna end either in a really good way or a really bad way. I assumed bad way,
yeah,
which I was correct, but I didn't really want to spoil that for myself. And I couldn't be like, oh, let's look up pictures of Kanan, and then I find out, his
yeah,
ultimate sacrifice moment. Um, of course, that would be out of context, but still, I didn't want to spoil it for myself. So, um, but it kept me on the edge of my seat to push myself and keep going. And one of those, the whole aspect of Fulcrum was very much one of those pieces. Big benefit for me
yeah,
was it kept me engaged. I never felt really bored by it. There was the occasional very fillery episode, but um, I don't know if you can get really any show without at least one or two. Um, but I it was something I always looked forward to watching or making the time to watch.
yeah. No, no, I did too. And like I said, like you said, I watched it in real time, so it was just like I had to wait a week, or I had to go wait on the hiatus between mid-season hiatus. So my question to you is, if Ahsoka, after it's all said and done, and upon our review, turns out to basically be Rebels season 5, what are your feelings on that? Like, I think you'll be okay with, but like, say Rebels, like the way Captain America, Civil War was Avengers 2.5. If
Mhm.
Ahsoka turns out to be season 5 of Rebels in disguise, same way Bad Batch is season 8 of Clone Wars in disguise. Are we good with this? I think I'm good with it. But
I'm happy with it. I'm happy to see more Rebel stuff. I mean, I think if there's one area of Star Wars that I would like to see continued, even though there are certain characters no longer there, like Kanan. I think that there's still ways that, assuming if he was willing to do it, if like Freddie Prinze Jr., for example, was willing to come back for any degree, or if we can bring in Sam Witwer to some degree in the live action anything, I would love it. But if we can make this continue, I would be happy for it to be in the face of Ahsoka. Um, Even though it's not necessarily her show anymore at that point, I feel like, but she was still very much ingrained in certain aspects of Rebels. So you can't really be overly mad at it, but I would be more than happy to see a continuation of these characters and where they're going. I feel like it's probably the most excited like thing or expansion than being like, oh, it's more Skywalker stuff. Like, don't get me
yeah,
wrong, I love the Skywalkers, but we kind of need to put some of that to rest and explore other areas of the galaxy, even though
yeah,
they're still
exactly.
connected to it. But
Well, they're still connected to it, but it's the benefit of being one removed. Like Ahsoka was trained by
mhm,
a Skywalker and a Kenobi, but she's not a Skywalker or a Kenobi. She has the benefit, and she had a wildly different story than those guys did. Those guys were
yeah,
Jedi through and through until one of them wasn't, obviously, and then, well, actually, excuse me, they were both Jedi through and through. They more or less, I would argue, had the same sort of breaking point. Obviously, like when Anakin falls for his reason, is the same way. I think you can argue that Kenobi loses. He's not a Jedi at that point. Like, yeah, he had the fight
mhm,
and he was a Jedi, but once he
yeah,
sees what he's done to Anakin, he's out of the Jedi Order. He's not a Jedi. He's not a Jedi again until Kenobi, when he gets called back by Organa. And even then,
mhm,
it wasn't at that moment. He had to work through it, and he had to
yeah,
find his way back. So,
for sure.
you know, I I'm okay with it being like through her lens and just like including a lot of the different characters. And like you said, we do need to get away from the Skywalkers, but it's also nice we can throw it back. Like, uh, again, the episode on Geonosis, I think it was Geonosis, or no, excuse me, when they're going to rescue Hera, maybe in one of those episodes,
Mhm,
Rex is just like, Rex and Saw Gerrera are watching what Kanan's done, and Saw is like, oh yeah, he's real. That's pretty good. And Rex is like, yeah, but he's not Skywalker. He's like implying that Sky, like Anakin probably would have like force lifted the three of them across this huge gap that they
Right.
had to climb, or something like that. Uh, like little, like not in just like a jabby way, but like throwbacks like that, like where you can reference
Hmm.
things that have happened, but like you can see her grow and take the better lessons. Like again, her showing up to Luke's temple, she should have been like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Didn't work. Did not work.
Yeah.
Your dad, listen, it really didn't work out for your father. This dogma. So let's talk. Let's have a drink. Let's talk. Come talk with Auntie Tano, and we'll see if we can improve a couple little things here. There's always room for improvement, Luke. Let's go. Come on, let's talk. R2,
Right.
you got the videos. Let's go. Let's have a movie night. You're not going to want to see some of this, but you have to.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I like it. I like that it can spin out from. It's now these characters are known to us. We have 4 seasons. These characters are known to us, and it's okay to watch them not spiral out of control, but spiraling out of that story, and then it'll all hopefully come together in Filoni's Mandoverse movie, whatever
Yeah.
that ends up getting called. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that I can definitely see a lot of parallels because I'm in the middle of book 2 of that trilogy, and I can see a lot of parallels. It's very heavy within because obviously it took place way before Filoni was even on board for anything. It happens right after Return of the Jedi, so like 5 years I think is when it starts. So I mean we still got a good amount of time for that to kind of like build up a little bit from Rebels. If I'm not, I think it was right around that because it happens right up until A New Hope, right? More or less.
Rebels probably happens right up until before Rogue One, which leads us into A New Hope. So yeah, like a year, a couple of months beforehand.
Right. So then, I mean, I can definitely see some things that because obviously in the books they were very much with Luke, Han, Leia, stuff like that, which are those roles can't be reprised unless they're going to be either changing the actor or doing something digitally. But I think that there are a lot of changes that they can tweak to adapt to it being Mando in the story, or it being Ahsoka in the story, or it being Sabine, or pretty much any member of the Ghost crew.
Bo-Katan, she shows up.
Bo-Katan, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parallels I think that they can make in bridging that gap and adapting the story to obviously what Filoni's built, rather than just piggybacking off of something that George Lucas built. Well, I guess he's technically doing that anyway, but kind of get what I'm saying. So that he's doing his own thing, but it can definitely be adapted.
Yeah, and I'm excited for it, and I know here on Nerd Affiliated we're siding with the actors and the writers, rightfully so. But I'm still gonna. I mean, I guess I'll shut all the windows and everything. I'm still gonna be watching this, and I'm still gonna have my opinions.
Just don't tell the boss that we're watching it.
I mean, he knows. Listen, all right, he knows.
We'll watch it, but we won't talk about it exclusively until hopefully this whole thing is over.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's August 12th. So Ahsoka drops on the 23rd, I think. I probably should have looked that up.
2 weeks from now, I think.
Yeah.
Like that.
So hopefully in 2 weeks, it would be amazing. I doubt it, but in 2 weeks' time, hopefully this thing's all said and done, and we can gush about it properly. And hopefully we are in a position to gush about it. I've been led astray by trailers before. The trailers look interesting. I like Rosario Dawson in the role a lot. I love that she and Ackley Eckstein seem to have like a friendship. I think I saw clips of them in a con or something. I would love it if they're playing a holo recording and it's her voice. It's just like use her voice. Let her get some live action reps in, for lack of a better word.
Did they ever use her for anything in live action yet?
I want to say they haven't, for whatever reason. I also don't even know if she's really. Obviously, I know she's a voice actress. I don't know if she's been an actress. I would assume they all start out that way, but
I'm looking it up really quick. Tales of the Jedi. She was apparently in Rise of Skywalker. Oh, that was when she did the voice on Ahsoka during the whole Force Ghost thing. I guess that doesn't really count. Yeah, it doesn't look like she's done anything live action that I can tell. Mostly voice stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I have it. I have mine. Absolutely. If wildest out of left field idea, that you think they would possibly throw into there? Like we all have our theories and what we think the show is going to be. What would be like some like what's your oh my god they'll never do this that you think they would include or could include?
Something. Oh, that's tough. I mean, my first initial reaction kind of goes back to honestly Freddie Prinze Jr. And I know he's kind of like written off the series a little bit. You know, he's kind of like not mildly made enemies with a lot of Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
You know, with his comments about, you know, being for kids and all this other stuff, which I can't fully disagree with, but, you know, there's certain aspects that I do disagree with. But I mean, I feel like if he did just randomly show up as Kanan's Force Ghost or whatever, I think that that would be something out of left field that part of me hopes for, but I'm not counting on. I guess that trying to figure out what's going to be going on with Ezra.
Okay.
I think that's going to be kind of a big question for me because he kind of went off and just kind of disappeared after, you know, the finale and didn't really just kind of just went off into the wind for the most
Mhm.
part. But obviously Sabine's very broken up about it. I don't remember why she has his lightsaber or like her training with Ahsoka or like agreeing to a train with Ahsoka. So there, that kind of connection, I think, is going to have to be. I don't know if they're retconning that a little bit or if just my memory's bad. So that'll be curious to find out how that works. Yeah.
He has his sorry to interrupt. She has his lightsaber because in the finale he's going to surrender himself to Thrawn and he hands it to her.
Mhm.
And he's like, you know,
Okay.
I think he probably says like, keep this safe for me or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
But then like it seems like the agreement between Sabine and Ahsoka to train as a Jedi, I think was kind
Yeah.
of, I don't remember that happening, but it seems like that's what's happening based on the trailer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if again if they're retconning that a little bit, if they're just kind of using it for the story purpose, whatever the case may be. I'll be curious to find out how that kind of connects or works out. Is there anything else? I'm excited to see Chopper in live action, just to see if he's just as snarky and
I hope I hope he
interesting.
is. I think he will
I
be.
hope so too. And I guess the only other thing would be Jason, just to see if they kind of include and or mention him at any point. Oh, you know what's really out of left field, and I made a video on the Nerdjank channel about this. The Sam Witwer Star Killer theory.
Damn it! You
if he-
stole mine. Damn it! I was like, okay, he's not mentioning it. He's not mentioning it. Damn it. Okay, go ahead.
That's got to be pretty out of left field. Hope, but don't expect.
Yeah, that's it. Like, because all the stuff you mentioned, I think it's a lot to put into the show, so left field in that regard. But it has more of a potential than happening. Than I was going to say, like, it would be amazing if they actually had the guts to bring out a full-on Star Killer. But I figured, like, you know, I'm assuming that Thrawn is going to.
Hope they do. It's so far fetched, but like I really hope they do because we need Sam. We need to get Sam Witwer involved in general.
Exactly, you need him involved. We want him involved. I think see him like because I mean he's. I mean I've seen him on interviews and stuff. He still looks like the character, you know.
Yeah,
so
sure.
it doesn't look like he has to like do any sort of like crazy fitness things or whatever to get back to it.
Get a haircut.
Get a haircut.
Like, there's really nothing much to it.
No, exactly.
You just gotta get a buzz cut and show up.
Yeah, but if I was hoping, I'm like, okay, end of this season series. I don't know if this is going to be a one and done, but end of the season or whatever. Like Thrawn, you know, opens the door and he's doing his angry meditation, and you know, like black or something, because like the Emperor and his is now like Ahsoka's out there. Luke's rebuilding the Jedi Order. So even though Thrawn isn't, I never got the impression he was a huge fan of it. Like he doesn't call on Vader or anything or whatever. Mm. But like, you know, he's just like, all right, well, I can outthink these guys. I can out tactic these guys. I can't outforce these guys. So let's activate one of Vader's old things.
It goes back to, and I think I mentioned this in another random video. I don't remember exactly. It also kind of connects to what Dave Filoni can do with how he's going to potentially adapt the book. If that's the Heir to the Empire series, that if that's what he's adapting, which that's what the rumor has been, it fits a lot better because there's another Jedi who's kind of like evil or like it's supposed to be like Luke's clone or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. But it's trying to essentially recruit Jedi's to be, and then essentially turn them, or like he was trained by the Sith. If there's anybody in this timeline, and we can't use the Luke stuff because obviously they're older now, that's going to be a really good opportunity. I mean, yes, we can go back to Anakin, but even as he's progressively getting older, but I really need to see that. I think it would be so awesome to see. I mean, the stars are aligning, so if there's going to be any point, it's got to be here and or very, very soon.
All things considered, I know Star Wars is having a rough patch in the films, but season 3 of Mando aside, and there were a couple of good moments in season 3.
Yeah,
I still trust in Dave Filoni. I still trust in Jon Favreau, and I think I'm excited. I'm gonna try to just be excited and optimistic until I see it, and they give me a reason to go Last Jedi on it. Basically,
I think as long as they're staying, in front of things and the current leadership, whatever that may be, or if it changes, or even if it becomes them in a very James Gunn situation, I think as long as they're on board, I think we are too. Like, I feel like they've earned a lot of the trust between Mando, Rebels, Clone Wars. They've proven they can do it, and they've made, massive fans out of all of us, or even bigger fans of Star Wars, at least in my case, than I ever was before. And I'm on board for it. So hopefully that, they can continue that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Any final thoughts?
I hope the show's really good. That's all. I don't really know.
Yeah.
This is probably the most excited I've been. I mean, maybe Mando like season 2, and like when you really riding the train on that before it started derailing a little bit in season 3. I feel like this is the most excited I've been for Star Wars in quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm definitely. I'm after season 3 of Mando. I needed a break. We've had a break, and now thanks to everybody go rewatch Rebel. Did you say this for me?
Everyone go rewatch Rebels. I had to think about how to say
what he said.
It is a fantastic show.
And it's gotten me excited for this
4 seasons. It's possible to. I mean, if you start now, you can get it all of it in. I think you can skirt that line.
Yeah, you can totally do that. So, all right, this has been great. Thank you very much for your time. Always fun to chat with you.
I appreciate it. I'm excited. I've been itching to talk about Rebels for quite some time. We finally did it, at the wire, but we did it, and that's what's important.
That's exactly. We finished. We got the assignment in. It's on time. Where can everybody find you, sir?
Pretty much everywhere. Pretty much on all platforms at Aaron Waller YT. That's just my YouTube one. You can find me here on the Nerd Affiliated channel. Mostly behind the scenes stuff, but I like to pop my head up every so often, such as the case here, or in the occasional live stream with the boss man. You can find some good content, including some awesome Star Wars stuff. And I'm sure, if you want to talk about Star Killer or, some of the stuff that I mentioned in this video, want to learn about lightsabers, whatever. I'm on the Nerdgenic channel. I have videos on there every so often if you want to pop in there. Check out, more videos on Nerdgenic, of course, on Nerd Affiliated, and of course, buy some merch.
Great stuff. I am Anthony the Rambling Nerd. You can find me on the Nerd Affiliated YouTube channel. I am same handle at Rambling Nerd on Instagram. The big boss, Steve Archer, and I are riding the road to New York Comic Con. We have cosplay stuff coming down the pipe. I have comic book stuff coming down the pipe. Go check out this man on his channel on Nerdgenic, here on Nerd Affiliated. Thank you so much for taking the time. Steve, take us out, please.